In this episode, I'll be speaking with another person whose hair is better than mine, Broadway legend and Tony Award-winning choreographer Sergio Trujillo.
If you work in the theaters of Manhattan, you probably heard of Nate Patten. And whether black, white, Asian, or Latin, you want to punch him right in the mouth, but please don't do it. No, he's just our Nate, a man of many thoughts he can't abbreviate. But if you like a gay, misanthropic, self-hating Jew, then Patten Disregard is just the show for you. Yeah.
Here's a radical idea. If you're attempting to make a living doing theater, nobody owes you shit. And here's the good news. That's true for all of us. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're white, black, gay, or James Corden. In show business, no one owes you anything. None of us. Not a single person. It's the one thing that actually unites all of us in theater, besides thinking that the lyrics to Diana could have been a little stronger. Let's just say you're a Tony, Grammy, and Emmy Award winner. All of them for the same role if you're Ben Platt. The same goes for you. None of us, not a single person from Oprah to Kevin Spacey is entitled to anything from anyone in show business. But in 2022, if you don't cast me because I'm out of shape, then it's fat shaming. And if you don't hire me because I can't do the choreography, it's bullying. And if you say I can't play Grisabella because I'm tone deaf, then it's animal abuse. I'm sorry. We've empowered this next generation of theater artists to think that they're going to be handed a Broadway contract just because they showed up. Not everybody is going to be able to do this for a living. It just can't work that way. And no, I'm not saying gay people don't deserve to be on stage. They totally do. Or that you don't deserve a bathroom break when you're rehearsing Angels in America. But the notion that you are not getting something bigger you deserve from this community is ridiculous. The only thing you can possibly be owed is a chance. Everyone should be afforded a fair chance. But that doesn't mean we can all be cast in the all-female 1776. You know what? Fuck you, fuck me, fuck everyone equally. Who has time for this? We're all gonna die, and most of us aren't winning a Tony. Please welcome Broadway actress turned therapist, Lisa Gajda. So, hello.
Hi.
We are back for season 2 now. The last time we were here in season 1, we were talking about what it was like to come back from COVID and the reopening of things. We've now been in the swing of things for a little while, right? The shows have been open for 9 or 10 months, and things are starting to feel normal in a way. Like,
yeah.
Do you feel like we actually are normal, or are we now, is this getting harder now, or is it getting easier?
Let me think about that in terms of what I'm seeing. I think that things have gotten harder and that hardness is becoming normalized.
Yeah.
You know, that comes at a price. It's not like it's free.
Yeah.
Like normalizing that comes with like sort of smashing some experiences down. Like you can't manage all of that at once.
Right.
In other words, all of the unknowns, like, you know, the types of roles swings go on for, you know, how COVID affects a run, et cetera, et cetera.
I think if we look at also what, like that being a trauma, I feel like we're now like in a different stage of the trauma.
Yeah.
Like we're over the initial like shock of everything. And now we're into like the reacclimating back into your life period. And that comes with all sorts of weird feelings.
It does. It's kind of like, I think we're in the phase where everybody is like, I know I am. I'm just like, wherever life is, I'm like, I'm going to gobble that like as fat. So we're kind of like I went to Passover and I was like breathing, I was like sucking air from people's mouths down my throat on purpose. I mean, it's not responsible. We're nowhere near done with this thing. But I actually think that
it wasn't responsible before COVID.
But what? It's like, I think that I don't know what I'm talking about. I think that we're in the phase where we're going to try and be okay really fast because it's available. And I still think that we haven't even begun. I've said it a million times. I don't think we've even begun to have this space to process what happened yet.
Yeah, I think you're so right. Because in some ways we feel like we're just out and about, restaurants are open, theaters open.
Yeah.
It's like kind of looking like it used to.
Right.
But I think you're right. I don't think we've even like touched the tip of the iceberg of healing from this yet. I think we're still going to see it's so dark, but we're going to see like the damage of this forever. I mean,
it's darkness and light at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like it's right for us to snag life where it's available. I mean, if the pandemic taught me anything, it's like if you're in a restaurant with like 50 people at the same time and the sun is shining, fucking be there. Like take that shit in. That is not a given. Right. And now I know how much that means to me, like togetherness and community and all that. And so we've gained a lot of things from this as well. We have, like I always say, we're going to leave this thing with skills. We have skills we never would, and our kids have skills. What we have to do is make sure that we process. So like when I work with clients, we always talk about like, we want to sort of recognize our resilience and our strengths.
Yeah.
But we also want to be sure to hold and make space and process the hurt and the damage as well. We want to hold both at the same time. So where we are now is I think we're kind of leaning into like everything is. But the thing too is like, is it like this for you? Everything is better. And your body's like, but is it? Your body's like, okay, let's see.
Right. I'll be the judge of that.
And that's part of the damage is this sense of like, it's like we're trying to be okay, but there's like always a variant around the corner.
And we're asked to be okay in that we have sort of just been asked to resume our old routine.
Yeah.
Go back to 8 shows a week. You go to the theater. It's still damaging.
Oh my God.
I don't know. It's weird. We did season 1 of this show right when Broadway reopened.
Yeah.
It was September of last year. And now we're in April. And it's interesting to see the difference of how we feel. Somehow the more open we go, like the longer it's been now, it also still starts to resonate for me just how much has changed and how
we are in the process of change. I mean, life is always we are always in the process of change, but this
was a really big change.
This was a big one. It's like a life cycle moment. It's like the birth of a child, the death of a parent, the death of a child, like a giant thing. We are in the midst of that kind of change. Right. And that's what it feels. That's honestly the answer is that we're neither here nor there. We're very deeply in the process of ongoing change.
What do you think we need to do to continue to learn how to deal with this? Do you think I'm sure you recommend therapy because you are a therapist, because I'm
a big fan.
I am too.
Yeah, good.
I'm not afraid to say I'm in therapy. Yeah, it's important. What else do you think we can do except to just...
How do we hold, I guess, it's going to sound like a lot of gobbledygook, but gobbledygook. One of the things that I do, tell me if this makes sense to you, because you have like a you're like a smart guy and you have like a really linear brain, I think, as well as a creative brain. Does this do anything for you? Make the container as big as you can. So when you're in a moment that has a lot going on and a lot of conflicting stuff going on, you literally, there's just something about telling your brain, let's make the container as wide as we can so that we can just hold what this is like all at the same time. You consciously make space. I know this all sounds like really hippie-ish.
No, it doesn't.
Does that hit you in a way? Does it make sense?
I would think of it in a different way, which to me it's more like allowing feelings to come and go. That's how I would describe that. But I think we're saying maybe the same thing.
It's being present to what's here.
I've somehow become a meditation expert in this session. Look at that. Amazing.
We've talked about the Bible together and we don't know anything about that either.
I'm sitting here with legendary Broadway choreographer and director. Please welcome Tony Award winner Sergio Trujillo.
Thank you. Tony Award winner, wow.
I was just going to say, does it feel good to hear Tony Award winner in front of your name, and have you gotten used to it yet?
Actually, I think you're probably one of the first people to say it out loud. Because we've been locked up for 2.5 years. Yeah, it does. It feels good.
Yeah.
It feels good.
I was looking at your resume, and I have to say, I could not believe that On Your Feet was your first Tony nomination. Because in my head, you've been an iconic choreographer in town for so long, and I was like, wait a minute, On Your Feet. It was absolutely unbelievable to me. when you won for Ain't Too Proud, were you, in that moment, did you feel like it was going to happen, or were you not sure, or did you think there was no chance it would happen?
Look, I mean, let's even rewind a little bit further back. The fact that On Your Feet was my first nomination, it put it into perspective, because I learned early on that the awards and all those kinds of accolades are sort of the icing on the cake. I think that when I look back, it's the body of work. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, what we do, but it's really about the body of work. And I don't do what I do for the awards. I do it for making sure that I am maximizing my talent and making a contribution to the community and to the art. So things happen the way they're supposed to be. I got nominated with On Your Feet, which is a show about my family, my culture. So it was most rewarding of all. And then to win with Ain't Too Proud after being in the here for over 15 years, I put in a lot of work.
Yeah.
It was well earned. Did I know it was going to happen? You never know. Again, you never know. I wasn't counting on it. I was happy to be in that room. I was happy to be in the season that I was in with my other fellow nominees.
A really competitive year too.
Yeah. And exciting, that we have that dance continues to pervade, that dance continues to exist, because I think for a while there wasn't that many shows that had dance in it, but now even this season, incredibly exciting season. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near this season because, but I'm looking at the work of really wonderful, talented colleagues of mine. But yes, ultimately I didn't know, but to hear your name called out is an out of body experience.
I want to talk for just a minute about Ain't Too Proud. And look, I never lie to my guests, and I never blow smoke up people's asses. When I saw the show, actually in previews, I said to my friend, Sergio's going to win. And I really did call it. And the reason I felt that was that I thought that, I feel like in a totally good way, I could pick your choreography out of a lineup. I know a Sergio show in a good way. And when I saw that show, it felt like your choreography and had just been turned on its head just ever so slightly. Like it just, I don't know, something about the way that it felt a little bit outside of the box and just like cranked up one notch. And I was like, this is going to be it for Sergio. A question I have about the choreography for Ain't Too Proud is, how do you balance choreographing the Temptations, who were real people that really performed live and did movement on stage? How are you faithful to that movement, but also create both your own aesthetic as a choreographer and something that feels theatrical and palatable today?
Yeah, of course. It's interesting because I feel like Ain't Too Proud was the culmination of a number of shows that were, I don't want to call it jukebox because I hate that term. Mm-hmm. I call it biographical. Mm-hmm. Beginning with Jersey Boys, then Summer, a show like Summer, where, and On Your Feet, where I had to in some way be able to pay homage to whoever the show was about, be respectful of who they are, and not take such a left turn that all of a sudden the audience is looking at this artist and saying, well, that's not what I remember. Right. So it's you're walking the fine line. And I made sure that with Ain't Too Proud that I was reverent to them, but I took my own approach to the material. I looked at it through the lens of dance today. Since the Temptations were around in the 60s till now, dance has evolved. The way we look at dance, the way we move, and I just thought, so two things I said. I want to make sure that whoever knows the Temptations looks at them and says, wow, that's what I remember. And a young audience will look and say, wow, that's really cool and that's really hip.
You've done this a few times with Donna Summer and Jersey Boys also, where you're doing, you're staging people that were real people that, Donna Summer, you can watch her on YouTube. You can see the way that she moves. So you can't go so far off of Donna Summer that somebody would be like, that's ridiculous. Right. But you also have to be Sergio Trujillo and do Sergio's choreography and not copy what she did.
Well, those are great examples. So on with Jersey Boys, the Four Seasons did not move. I mean, as a matter of fact, I think Bob Gotti was so uncomfortable in the spotlight. And they just stood and they sang by their microphone. I mean, they just really were not the most impressive, exciting performers. I mean, obviously incredible musicians, and Frankie's voice was angelic. But so I actually took a real departure from who they were and what they did, and created a world which has become in essence iconic, because people copy that choreography wherever, they go on YouTube and they look at that, and then they just take. And so I'm proud of the work I did in that show, because also Des, who's my favorite director, and he's just absolutely genius and just incredibly supportive, and he actually really reined me in with when I was doing Jersey Boys, because I wanted to dance, and he was like, no, we got to keep it, we got to keep a tight leash on you, basically. But he was right. He taught me about really making sure that the choreography was sort of being born from the characters, and that Tommy moved a certain way, and Frankie moved a certain way, and Nick, and so on and so forth. So there was, and we really created a world through the choreography, and obviously through the show. The same thing happened with Donna Summer, though. With Donna Summer, I had Ariana DeBose, Academy Award winner. Thank you very much.
That's right. That's right.
In my muse.
Yes.
In my muse, I love her and adore her. And there was no way that I couldn't really take advantage of the fact that I had a real triple threat, who can really dance, who sang just like her, and who's an exceptional actress. In that respect, I took some departures from her. Again, Donna Summer, she was it was her voice, and she's not, she wasn't a Beyonce, she was Donna Summer. Right. But, we're doing an adaptation. We're not replicating, we are creating a musical which lives in a different sort of world. And so in those two instances, I was able to really go beyond what the expectation, but somehow I was still able to balance it in a way that the audience connected with the character.
My memory of the Summer also is that it was very theatrical too, because Donna Summer was a performer, but she never necessarily did Death of a Salesman. She wasn't a theater artist herself inherently. So I remember that show, especially with the way you choreographed it and the way that Des directed it, that it did have a theatricality to it, that you sort of blended the two worlds of being faithful to Donna Summer and also to, doing something on a Broadway stage. I heard a story, and I hope this is true because I heard it. I heard that in rehearsals for that the girls were complaining about their heels, and you were like, for a rehearsal, you were like, I'm just going to wear heels on stage, and I'm going to do the choreography in heels. Is that true?
It is true. Actually, before I started rehearsals, I had La Duca shoes design a boot for me because I felt like, I wanted to make sure that I understood how my female dancers moved, how my female cast is. Right. How did it feel? How did the choreography feel? I didn't want to give stuff that was impossible. Yeah. So if I couldn't do it, then they couldn't do it. If I could do it, then they could do it. I mean, I have a story where one of my Jenny LaRoche, who's like 10 feet tall, the most beautiful dancer you can imagine. We were doing a piece of choreography, and she said to me, Sergio, I can't get from 10 to 0 in those counts. And I said, really, Jenny? So I said, whenever I walked over to my chair and strapped on my boots, and I said, okay, watch. And I did it. And she was like, she never again said anything. They never again questioned any of the choreography.
Do you choreograph to your own instincts as a dancer, or are you thinking of other dancers? You danced for such a long time. When you choreograph Ariana DeBose, are you picturing yourself in it, or do you see another person who's not you doing it?
I think it's important for me to understand. So there's a way of, before I get into choreographing the show, I have to understand, like, how does this show move? How does it dance? And I try to make sure that each show has its own identity. But I do think about the dancers. I do think about like with Ariana, I knew how Ariana moved because we had worked together on Bronxdale, so I knew how she danced. So I was thinking, here's and we worked together. When I do my pre-production, I never do pre-production by myself or just with my associate. I usually have another group of 3 or 4 dancers in it because I want to make sure that I'm not the one performing.
Right.
It is the work is an expression of the artist, of me, but I'm not it has to it's like a tailor. I can have the design, but if it doesn't look good on the person that I'm tailoring this dress or the suit or what have you to that person, then doesn't make any sense. That's in terms of movement, I'm not talking about narrative.
Yeah.
So Frankie, the first Frankie Valli, John Lloyd Young, every single little bit of choreography that he did in that show was choreographed. It was staged. Like the moment, like when he buttoned his jacket, how he grabbed the microphone, and I cater that performance to him. And I was very proud of John winning the Tony Award because it was a testament to the work that we did.
100%. Do you feel that you can do work on choreography at home by yourself when you're, just hanging out and thinking about stuff? Or do you really need to be in a room of other dancers moving?
I tried that at the beginning and that doesn't work. I felt like a crazy man.
Yeah.
Dancing at home by myself. No.
I need
a studio. I need to be able to work with my dance arranger, with percussion.
Yeah.
I think I'm always thinking about it. There's always in my everyday life, if I'm thinking about a show, I'm walking around or like when I was doing Memphis, when I was choreographing Memphis, there was one number that I couldn't possibly figure out what the number was going to be. And at that time, I was living up in Harlem, and I walked by this playground one time, and these girls were playing double dutch, and that was that gave me the idea for one of the numbers in the show called Radio. So it's life. I'm feeding off everyday life.
Sure.
But I do need to go in the studio. I need to experience it, and I need to hear the music. I need to be surrounded by other artists.
I think a lot of people think of you as a dancer, choreographer, like On Your Feet and Summer, and these are all like such dancer shows. But the truth is, when I looked at your resume, you have a lot on your resume as a musical stager in addition to that, too. You did Next to Normal. One of my favorites, which I want to talk about now because I feel like nobody talks about it, is Hands on a Hard Body. I loved that show. And I want to talk about your choreography because I feel like I have to explain it because it was sadly short-lived. And people don't give it credit. The whole premise was that they had to touch a car the whole show. So I thought the whole idea of it was very brave to be like, we're going to do a musical about a car and you can't take your hand off. It's like the whole idea was ridiculous and created so many problems staging-wise because how do you do that? So I thought I want to hear about what that was like to choreograph that, and also just talk about how interesting it was to see a show where everyone had to be touching a car all night, and then you're the choreographer.
Yeah, no, so that was one of those shows, one of those projects where I was approached by Chris Ashley, who was the artistic director of La Jolla Playhouse, who said, we're doing this show, we're looking for a choreographer, would you be interested? And I did find it daunting, to be able to tell a story for 2.5 hours,
or even tell it for 10 minutes.
I know.
You can't take your hand off the car.
So Neil Pepe, who's, who I have so much respect for, was directing it. Amanda Green was the Trey Anastasio's music. Really a phenomenal team. It was fantastic. So I looked at a few things. I looked at the team, and then I thought, I need to be able to push myself, with challenging stories. It's not everything's about big, huge splashing musicals, because it's about my growth as an artist. And when I look back at my career, as I mentioned to you, it's a marathon. It's the body of work. It's what did I do and how did I maximize my time as a creative individual. But what I did say to the producers when they asked me, I said, look, if I'm going to do this, I need to spend a few weeks in a studio with a car, so that I can figure out like can I figure out a way into the piece? How can I find innovative ways of staging each one of those songs, and obviously take the audience on a journey. And so I did. I worked on this for like 3 weeks it wasn't even a real car. It was a one made out of wood. But slowly, I figured it out. And then once that light bulb went off, then it just set me free. And then I had a great time working on it.
It was very cool because even before I saw it, I had heard about it, and I thought this is on paper, it's the worst idea for a musical I've ever heard. And then I was very intrigued by it for that reason, because there were so many smart people working on it. I said, okay, well, these are all really smart people working on an impossibly hard task. I always thought that show did not get enough credit. Just for attempting that should have been award worthy. I mean, it was so at odds with itself. I mean, to have to do a musical where you can't take your hand off a car was absolutely insane. So you worked with a lot of great choreographers when you were a dancer yourself. Who inspired you to both be a choreographer and also your own process?
I'm very lucky because as a dancer, my first Broadway show was Jerome Robbins' Broadway. And my final show on Broadway was Fosse. So in a way, I studied by two of our most legendary, iconic director choreographers simply by doing and dancing their work already. I had a lot of really wonderfully generous choreographers who took me under their wing. Obviously, they saw something in me that I hadn't quite seen yet. Michael Peters, for instance, was the first person. Michael Peters, who he was he won a Tony Award for Dreamgirls. But then he went on to choreograph all of Michael Jackson's work, and he gave Michael Jackson Thriller, Beat It, all of the iconic movement that we know Michael Jackson to have. Michael Peters was the first person who saw something in me, and he pulled me aside and he said, "You have a God-given talent. You should dance." Because at that point I was at crossroads. Am I going to stay as studying chiropractic, or am I going to go off and dance? And so Michael gave me the courage and the belief in myself. And then, he asked me to assist him on a couple of projects. Debbie Allen is another person who actually really was so again, same idea, saw something in me that I hadn't quite seen yet. And again, I danced in the Academy Awards, and they assisted her on a couple of things. Jerry Mitchell, who was right there from the beginning 30 years ago, again, saw really incredibly supportive, and I assisted him on a few things. Rob Marshall, and all of them, again, and I do this with me now. I look at somebody, I look at a young dancer, and I can see beyond that moment, and I can see beyond their talent, and I can see, how I can help shape that person if they're willing to invest into that person's future, in the same way that they have taken upon them. Because what I think musical theater requires real artists who are incredibly respectful of the art form, that are, we have to be able to make sure that we preserve it with respect. And that is what they have given me. And that's what I'm hoping to continue to do with other young dancers and choreographers.
Are we lacking that in some areas of this generation of performers? A reverence for the past?
I hope not. I think my peers continue to do that. And, I know Jerry Mitchell continues to do that. Susan Stroman continues to do that. Christopher Wheeldon continues to do that. I mean, I think that we're all in it, We all understand the responsibility that we have. And those that have stayed in the game, that have stayed here, that have continued to have a presence, we understand that responsibility to do that.
What do you feel has changed about this generation of younger dancers compared to when you were a dancer?
Yeah, of course. I think one of the things that has changed, and it is not their fault, I think it's the kind of respect that we had for our elders in the same way that we as adults, you know, I think that there is a very sort of congenial, sort of laid back attitude about the way you communicate with, you know, someone like for instance, when I was growing up as a dancer, you know, that the way that I would address Mr. Robbins. Now, I don't want to be called Mr. Trujillo, but the way that you would address Jerome Robbins or Anne Ranking or Gwen Verdon or Chita Rivera or so on and so forth, I feel like that is part of what I'm talking about. I'm talking about there is a you know, I think there is a respect for the work, for the art, for the people who have come before us, and I feel like that there may be it may be beginning to be diluted, and it's not their fault. We just have to make sure that we stay incredibly proactive.
Yeah, I recognize that too. That I do think I was talking about this with Liz Larson, who said she actually worked with Jerome Robbins, and the idea of ever questioning something, being like, I don't like that choreography, or like, I don't feel good doing that. She said, never in a million years. And now actors will be like, I don't know, can I think about it a different way? And like she said, you know, as a performer who had been around for a long time, was like, what the hell is that? You know, it seems so foreign to ever question the director or the choreographer.
You know, I don't mind the conversation.
Sure.
I don't mind the collaboration. But again, I just think that there is I think that we have to trust the person who's at the helm.
Yeah.
You know, that
we have to respect the process.
Yeah, and that there is work that has been done before you walk into that room by the person who's creating it.
Yeah.
And that their experience counts with a lot. Yeah, I believe in that. I believe. Look, I was always incredibly reverent to the choreographer I was working with, but I was taught that. Right. You know, and I just hope that the young artists understand that is part of the art.
Do you feel that we're, as a industry, forgetting to entertain the audience sometimes? I feel like choreographers like you and Jerry Mitchell and Susan Stroman, that guard of choreographers, it's about entertaining. You know, you're telling a story, but at the end of the day, you know how to do that closing number. You know, the closing number of Memphis and Jerry, and You Can't Stop the Beat. It's, you know, these are like, get the audience on their feet. That was always important. Has this next generation, or just in the industry in general, are we losing that desire to entertain?
I don't know. You know, look, this is a really, really tricky time in history. Period. Yeah. You know, we've just gone through a social reckoning. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot at stake, and we're also not coming out. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. Yeah. I know that what audiences are looking for is entertainment. They want to escape. They want to feel joyful. I know that when I go to the theater, I want to be entertained. I don't know. I mean, look, Chris Wheeldon is doing a magnificent job at MJ. You know, I was at the opening night, and I haven't been to an opening night where there were like 5 standing ovations in the middle of the night. Yeah. You know, and I know that happens regardless whether it's an opening night or not. I don't know. I just think that it's a challenging time. Yeah. And I think that for all of us, we're navigating how is the best way to make sure that we are doing our jobs, which part of that is inspiring an audience, entertaining them, but also giving them igniting conversation of some sort, you know, triggering thought. So the challenges are right in front of us right now, and tough to say. Yeah, and I don't mean to veer off the conversation.
It's all part of it.
It's, you know, it's cyclical. Yeah. It's cyclical, and you know, I mean, if we look at the shows that are on Broadway today, you know, we have from Music Man to Strange Loop. Yeah. From a girl of North Country.
Girl from North Country.
A girl from North
Yes.
Country. I mean, I saw that. I mean, those shows it's going to be tough. It's a dark show in a different season. It would people want to celebrate. I think.
I've been saying that on this show for a year now, which is that I felt when we reopened post-COVID that the shows that were going to do well were both revivals, because it's a throwback to before COVID. It reminds you of something else, and shows that made people happy. I don't really feel like we're unhappy enough. We don't need to go cry in a theater now. We're So I think that is what's happening. It's, someone told me that Wicked, for what it's worth, had a better. They did better in fall of 21 than they did in fall of 2019, because I think Wicked. Say what you want about Wicked. It reminds us of pre-COVID, right? It's been 20 years. So I think that people are really longing for, something that reminds them of an older time, and in a lot of cases, that is just good dancing. That is just happy dancing. And that can be enough. Is there anything that you're currently doing that you're allowed to talk about that you're excited about? I'm sure you're probably working on things that you're not allowed to talk about yet, but is there anything that you have going on that is inspiring you or exciting you as an artist that you're allowed to say on here?
I can talk about everything. Look, I think going back to the beginning of our conversation about the Tony Award, I think the Tony Award winner thing, it's not about winning the award, but what it did to me was it really it sort of awakened me. Well, I think that what it did was it gave me the impetus to become even more responsible than I was before to my culture. So what that means was when I got up on that stage, and I said what I said, one of the things that I did was I made a personal contract with myself. It was what am I going to do while I'm holding this thing on my hand? What am I going to do to make sure that brown stories are being told, that people, that young Latinos are seeing themselves on stage? And so in an interesting way, what the pandemic did was it allowed me to really focus in on that and hone in on that. And so for the past 2 years, I've been working on a handful of shows that are all Latino shows that are, and I don't want to say Latinx or Latine, I'm old fashioned, so I'll say Latino shows. And they're all based on books. Mm-hmm. They're all based on plays. They're based all on Latino stories that are all original. And all of those teams are all Latinx teams. I'm working with, and I'll say the names of the authors. I'm working with Karen Zacharias, who's a phenomenal playwright. Hilary Bettis. I'm working with Lisa Loomer. All really incredibly gifted Latin writers that have had their plays produced but now are writing musicals, and working with young composers and lyricists that are all Latin. Yeah. Because this is the time. You know, it's this the body of work, right? If I look back at my career and I didn't take this moment to make sure that I have a hand in making sure that there's some advance, there's some progress, then I wouldn't have done my job.
And you have the platform to do it now.
That's right.
Did you feel, I mean, I do want to say this before we go any further. You are from Colombia. Did you feel as a Colombian that there was, as a young person, that Broadway was an unattainable place for white people, or did it seem like the dream was possible to do?
I've said this before. I've never seen myself as anything else other than an equal to everybody. So the color of my skin has never come into play.
Sure.
Perhaps I've been discriminated upon in the past, but I never saw myself as, I can't do that because I'm Hispanic. I won't be able to do that. That's not attainable because I'm Hispanic.
You just did it.
I just did it.
Yeah.
I just
you weren't thinking of your identity in that way. You just did it.
I think that if I had maybe I wasn't smart enough to think about it. And I just went for, maybe if I had been smarter, then maybe I wouldn't be here because I would have just, my head, I would have just thought too much about it. No, there was I think being the son of an immigrant, gives you perseverance and tenacity and ambition. Like, really you have no other choice.
Yeah.
And so my choices were either the conversation for me was, do I stay, and I was a kid, but my parents chose for me, do we stay in Colombia or move to a place where we're going to have better opportunities?
Mm-hmm.
And then once my family went from Colombia to Canada, but then once for me, the choice was, do I stay in Canada and become a chiropractor, or do I follow what's really within me and my passion to be a dancer and so on and so forth, and go to America where the best are at and where things can happen?
You really are the American dream. And I know that sounds cliche to say, but that's exactly what everybody would think of. You moved from Colombia and you came here to become a Tony Award-winning choreographer. And if that's not the American dream, I don't know what is. I'm glad you didn't become a chiropractor, although my neck is bothering me. Do you mind taking a look at it?
Everybody tells me that. I'm going to stop using that, but because it's been so long, I've said it so. No, but really, no, I think only in this country can that happen.
Yes.
Only in America. And I encourage all young brown people to really, people ask me to go teach a dance class. And what I usually do, I prefer is to talk to students, to dancers, to choreographers, directors, about my experience. Because that's the other thing too, is that where I'm at, the platform is, how can I use this moment to be able to inspire other young artists to do the same thing?
Well, we think you've inspired a lot of people that have watched this. So thank you so much for being here. I know you're really busy, and we really appreciate it.
In this beautiful setting.
Yes, I painted all of these myself.
In the unlikely event you've enjoyed what you've watched today, please subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on social media at Patten Disregard. Check out our next episode of Patten Disregard, where I speak with star of 6 Broadway shows, the brilliant Madeline Doherty.